The mortgage on my brother's house was $3,847 a month. I know that number by heart because I watched it leave my account every single month for 4 years. He didn't know. That was the point. When my brother got laid off in 2021, he called me crying from his car in a Walgreens parking lot. His wife was 8 months pregnant. They were 2 payments behind. I told him I'd figure it out, and I did. I set up an automatic transfer through a property management LLC my accountant helped me structure, so the payments would route through without my name on them. He thought it was some kind of hardship assistance program through his HOA. I never corrected him. I just wanted him to be okay. My sister-in-law got back on her feet faster than he did. She went back to work after 12 weeks, landed a better job than before, and by 2022 they were doing fine. More than fine, actually. They bought a second car. They redid their kitchen. She started posting about their renovation glow-up on Instagram with little before and after reels that got a few hundred likes each. I kept paying the mortgage. I told myself I'd stop when it felt right. I kept waiting for that feeling. The thing about being the one who quietly holds everything together is that no one knows you're doing it, which means no one thinks to ask how you're holding up. I was 29, living in a 1-bedroom apartment with furniture from Facebook Marketplace, eating lunch at my desk most days, running numbers for a mid-size commercial real estate firm where I was, genuinely, quite good at my job. I'd been promoted twice. I managed a portfolio worth more than I'd ever say out loud at a family dinner. I was careful with money in a way that came from watching my parents fight about it every Sunday night of my childhood. My brother was not careful. He never had to be. He was the funny one, the charming one, the one who always landed on his feet, because someone, usually me, eventually, was standing underneath him when he fell. My mother adored him in that specific way some mothers adore their sons. Completely, uncritically, as though his existence was itself an achievement she deserved credit for. She didn't dislike me. I want to be fair about that. She just didn't really see me. I was the responsible one, which in our family was another word for invisible. The party was her idea. My brother and his wife were celebrating their 5th wedding anniversary, and my mother decided it should be an event. She booked a private dining room at a restaurant called Harrington's, the kind of place with cloth napkins and a sommelier who appears without being summoned. She sent a group text with the date, the dress code, elegant, please, and a note that said, "This is a celebration of love and family. Let's make it beautiful." I responded that I'd be there. I wore a navy dress I'd had for 2 years, heels, small gold earrings. I thought I looked nice. I'd come straight from the office, so I touched up my makeup in the elevator on the way up to the private room. When I walked in, my sister-in-law looked at me once and looked away. My brother hugged me hello and immediately turned to talk to someone else. My mother was standing near the window in a champagne-colored dress that probably cost more than my first paycheck. She looked at what I was wearing and said, "Oh, honey, that's what you decided on?" I said I thought it was fine. She lowered her voice, which somehow made it worse. "It's just, this is an elegant occasion. You look like you came from work." I had come from work. I said so. She made a small sound in the back of her throat and turned to greet someone else. I found my seat. I ordered a glass of wine. I told myself it was fine. Dinner moved the way those dinners do. Toasts, laughter, my brother telling a story about their honeymoon that everyone had heard before but still laughed at, because he told it well. My sister-in-law glowed in a red dress. My mother refilled her own champagne twice and kept touching my brother's arm like she needed to confirm he was real. I was quiet. I'm usually quiet at these things. There's a version of me that can be funny and warm in the right setting, but family dinners have never been that setting for me. And I'd stopped pretending otherwise a few years back. At some point during dessert, my sister-in-law brought up a vacation they were planning. "Portugal," she said. 2 weeks. They'd been researching it for months. My mother clasped her hands together. "Oh, that sounds absolutely divine. You two deserve it." And then, I don't know why I said it, maybe it was the wine, maybe it was the comment about my dress, Maybe it was 4 years of watching my bank account quietly drain. I said. That sounds amazing. I've been wanting to get to Lisbon for a while. Haven't been able to swing the budget lately. It was nothing. A throwaway comment. True, actually. My sister-in-law looked at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. My brother laughed a little, like I'd made a self-deprecating joke. My mother set down her champagne glass. Why would you say that? She asked. I looked at her. Say what? That. Making it about money. Tonight is about celebrating your brother and his wife, and you're sitting here talking about your budget. Her voice had gotten cooler, more deliberate. You always do this. I said I didn't know what she meant. You make people feel guilty, she said. Like they're supposed to apologize for having nice things. It's embarrassing. The table had gone quiet. The sommelier had tactfully disappeared. I said, I wasn't trying to make anyone feel guilty. I was just making conversation. You were sulking, my mother said. You've been sulking all night. I felt the heat crawl up the back of my neck. I kept my voice very level. I said, I haven't been sulking. I've been sitting here having dinner with my family. Don't do that. She pointed at me. Actually pointed. Don't use that tone with me in front of everyone. Mom, you've always resented your brother's happiness. I don't know why you can't just be happy for him. This is his night. The worst part wasn't that she said it. The worst part was that my brother didn't say anything. He looked down at his dessert plate. My sister-in-law took a slow sip of water. Nobody at the table said a word. And then my mother reached over and grabbed my wrist, not hard, not violent, just firm, and said, low and sharp, stop making a scene. I had not made a scene. I had made one comment about Lisbon. I pulled my wrist back. I picked up my purse. I said very quietly, I hope you all have a great rest of your night, and I left. I didn't cry in the elevator. I didn't cry in the cab. I got home, sat on the edge of my bed in my navy dress and my heels, and I opened my banking app. I looked at the recurring transfer. $3,847, scheduled for the 14th of every month. 4 years of 14ths, I canceled it. Then I sat there for a while in the quiet. I didn't call anyone. I didn't send a text explaining myself. I went to bed, went to work, and spent the next 2 weeks thinking about how to do the next part cleanly. Because here's the thing nobody tells you about being the quiet one. When you finally decide to stop, you have to be methodical about it. Emotional people blow things up fast and loud and then have to manage the fallout. I'm not emotional, I'm an analyst. I look at numbers, I identify exposure, and I unwind positions without creating unnecessary volatility. My brother's mortgage was the largest piece. But it wasn't the only piece. 4 years ago, when he was still unemployed and I was still in fix-it mode, I'd also co-signed the lease on the car my sister-in-law drove. A practical decision that had, in retrospect, been deeply impractical. I called the dealership, explained that I'd be removing myself as guarantor when the lease came up in 6 weeks, and confirmed what the process looked like. They were very helpful. I also looked at my phone plan. I'd added my mother to my account 3 years ago because she'd complained about her bill, and I'd said, without thinking too hard about it, just get on mine. I called the carrier and requested that her line be separated out to its own account, effective end of billing cycle. The carrier said she'd receive a notification. I said that was fine. None of these things were dramatic, they were just corrections. Like finding an error in a spreadsheet and fixing it quietly before anyone sees. The mortgage cancellation hit on a Tuesday. I know this because on Wednesday afternoon my brother called me. He didn't say hello, he said, "Did you cancel some kind of payment?" I said yes. Silence then. "What payment?" I told him. Another silence, longer this time. "What are you talking about?" "What?" "HOA program." I explained it again, more slowly this time. I told him about the LLC, the setup, the 4 years of transfers. I told him the amount. I told him the dates. When I finished, he was quiet for so long. I thought the call had dropped. Then he said, "Why didn't you tell me?" I said, "Because you would have argued with me about it. And at the time, I just needed to know you were okay. So you've been paying my mortgage for 4 years and you never said anything?" "No." He exhaled. I don't know what to say. I said, you don't have to say anything. I'm not telling you to make you feel bad. I'm telling you because you asked and you deserve to know. I didn't tell him about dinner. I didn't explain the connection. I just said I was making some financial adjustments, and the transfer had been one of them. He said he'd figure out how to cover it. I said I knew he would. We hung up. My mother called 2 days later. She started with the weather, which was how I knew she was nervous. My mother does not ease into things unless she's already lost the ground she was standing on. Eventually, she said she'd heard from my brother. About the payment. I said yes. She said she didn't understand why I would do that. Why I would just stop like that without talking to anyone. I said, I felt like it was time. Her voice sharpened. He has a family, he has a mortgage. You can't just… Mom. I kept my voice very calm. It wasn't his mortgage to begin with. I was paying it because I wanted to. And now I've decided to stop. Because of dinner? Because of one comment about your dress? I didn't say that. You're punishing him for something, I said. That's not fair. I thought about that word, fair, and all the geometry it contained. The 5 years of holidays where I'd driven 2 hours and been thanked with a, you're always so reliable. The times I'd helped my brother prepare for job interviews and never been mentioned in the story he told later about how he landed the role. The moment 2 weeks ago when he sat silently at a dinner table while our mother grabbed my wrist and told me to stop making a scene I was not making. I said, I'm not punishing anyone. I made a financial decision that made sense for me. That's allowed, after everything I've done for you. Mom. And I said it so gently it surprised even me. This isn't about what either of us has done. It's just about what I can sustain. And I can't sustain this anymore, she cried. I listened. I didn't change my mind. When she hung up, I sat for a moment in the quiet again. It felt different this time. Not empty. Just spacious. Like a room after you've cleared out the furniture you were only keeping because you'd forgotten it was optional. My sister-in-law called a week after that. She was more direct. I just want to understand, she said, what we did wrong. I appreciated the question. It was more honest than the others. I said you didn't do anything wrong. I made a choice to help and I made a choice to stop. But why now? Why after the dinner? I was quiet for a second. Then I said, because I sat at that table in a dress I thought was perfectly fine, and I got told I was embarrassing. And while that was happening, nobody said anything, and I realized that was pretty much the pattern. She was quiet. I'm not angry, I told her, and I meant it. I'm just done. She said she wished I'd said something sooner. I said I probably should have. We agreed on that much. I don't know what they did about the mortgage. I assume they figured it out. They'd both been employed and stable for over a year. They're resourceful people when they have to be. They were just accustomed to not having to be. My mother stopped calling after a while. My brother texted me on my birthday in November. Just the emoji with balloons, which I thought said something, though I wasn't sure what. I texted back a heart. We haven't had dinner since. I spent that Thanksgiving alone for the first time in my adult life, and people keep waiting for me to say it was terrible, but it genuinely wasn't. I made a very good roast chicken. I watched a documentary about ocean currents. I went to bed at 10 and slept without dreaming. The money I'd been sending to my brother's mortgage, I redirected it. I maxed out my Roth IRA for the first time. I started a small brokerage account. I made an appointment with a financial planner and showed up to it with a spreadsheet I'd built myself. She looked at my numbers and said, "You're in a much better position than most people your age." I told her I'd had some recent changes to my budget. She nodded and didn't ask. Last month, I booked a flight to Lisbon, business class because I could, and because no one was going to tell me how to dress for it. I leave in 6 weeks. I've already picked out the restaurants. I know what I'm going to order at most of them. I've been learning a little Portuguese, just enough to be polite and to understand what's being said around me. That's how I've always worked. Quietly, carefully, in ways other people don't notice, until suddenly the numbers don't add up the way they used to. The transfer is canceled. The lease is in her name. The phone line is separated, And I am, for the first time in a long time, spending my money on exactly the life I want.